Oh, sounds like a BMW N55. That one sounds like an RB25. Oh, that's a Toyota 2JZ, baby. Something drive by? I didn't hear anything. Now, how did I know any of that without seeing any of those cars? Well, for one, because I wrote this episode and those are me and my roommate's cars. But two, because I could hear them. The exhaust note of a car is basically its mating call. What your car sounds like is a big part of who your car is. It's like its signature. Having a cool and recognizable exhaust sound is one of the main reasons that an aftermarket exhaust is one of the first upgrades a lot of people do to their car. They come in different shapes, sizes, and of course prices, but they all promise pretty much the same thing. Slightly more horsepower and a better and generally louder overall sound. But will they always give you more power? And if so, how? And why does one pipe sound different than another? Today, we're gonna install a $600 MAGNAFLOW catback exhaust onto the Miata, and along the way, I'm gonna answer all of those questions and more. And then we'll take it for a spin and I'll give you my opinion on whether or not it was worth it for the old money pit Miata. And hopefully that'll give you enough context to make the same decision for yourselves. I'm Zach, and this is Money Pit. Let's do it. Now, today's challenge is to make the Miata sound like that. All right, so we're cruising around with our stock exhaust right now. Take a listen. Doesn't really sound like much. So we want to put an exhaust on it that's gonna flow better than stock and sound better than stock. So let's go back to the garage and I'll show you what we got. All right, this is the exhaust that we got. It's a MAGNAFLOW. It costs about $590. It's made out of stainless steel, so it shouldn't rust or corrode. Let's get the bubble wrap off and see what we're looking at. Woo! Shiny! So you can see we've got some welds here. They look nice. This thing was welded together by robots, I believe. Robots tend to not make mistakes, so that's cool. So build quality seems pretty good, and really it should for 600 bucks for a catback. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. Let's get the rest of it out. Ooh, what's this? A little plug for a bung. So this is our resonator. These are used to cancel out drone and harsh frequencies and, you know, rasp. That's a big muffler. We got a big honking resonator, and we only have a, what is it, a 1.8 liter 4-cylinder? I think this should be pretty quiet, which honestly is what I want. I don't want to make that much noise with the Miata yet.
Old man.
It's a 100 horsepower 4-cylinder. We don't need to scream about that.
Man.
We can just be quiet. We can just like that. So the way a resonator works, basically exhaust comes flowing through, and you can see this resonator straight through, but this outer case is packed full of material, sometimes like a fiberglass or something that absorbs sound and energy. So as the exhaust goes through, the packing material absorbs a lot of sound. It's really simple. This is a catback exhaust for a 1994 Miata. Now when I say catback, what does that mean? It means what it says. The exhaust starts at the end of your stock cat and goes the rest of the way back. We're gonna be keeping the stock cat because, again, we're only making 100 horsepower right now, so we're okay with emissions equipment. It might gain us a horsepower or two. It should gain us some sound, at least. But it's gonna take us like 10 minutes to install.
10 minutes to install. Want to make a bet?
No. Oops, too far. So my driveway is slanted downwards and we're lifting up the rear to put on an exhaust. That's why I put something in front of the front wheel so that it couldn't roll away. Always good to give her a little shake, make sure your work is stable. All right, let's take this old piece of shit off. All right, so this is our catalytic converter. So we're gonna be replacing everything from here back. So I'm gonna start here and pop off these nuts. But the first thing you should do is use some penetrating oil, ideally the night before or even a few days before you get going. And this will kind of seep into those threads and help break free any of that rust so that you don't end up stripping your hardware or rounding off any of your nuts. Okay, so now our nuts are loose. Now we need to pull the exhaust out of its rubber hanger. So we're gonna add a little bit of lube, and then we're just gonna force it with some pliers and screwdrivers and our hands. Okay, I think we have one more left. Okay, now. This is a ridiculous way to do this. No, there's gotta be a way. Oh, so close. It's Think that'll be enough? Eddie thinks so.
I know so.
Eddie knows so. Eddie's the smartest dude ever. Whoa! Okay, the old exhaust is out. That was pretty easy, even with a couple little hiccups. I think it's been 15 minutes, so removal, installation, this whole thing is not too bad. So far, worth it. All right, so let's talk about some of the pros and cons of an aftermarket exhaust to see what all the fuss is about and see if this thing's actually worth it. The point of these is to let your engine breathe better, the exhaling part, by increasing the diameter of the piping. They'll also make the muffler design a little more free-flowing, and they'll remove any unnecessary bends or, sharp turns that you don't need to have, just to try to decrease restriction and improve flow overall in the exhaust system. Now, improved flow and decreased restriction can mean, a few extra horsepower up top. They also usually tend to make more noise than stock due to the decrease in restriction and the change in muffler design. Now, that part is obviously awesome as long as the muffler is designed to sound good and the engine that you're putting it on is capable of making good noises. That's a big part of this. Hit the YouTube and the Google. Find examples of your car with specific exhausts. Chances are, if somebody makes an exhaust for your car, someone out there has bought it and someone has made a video of it. Now, in addition to being louder because we like that, being louder can also save your life. You may have heard the phrase, loud pipes save lives. And that can be true, especially on a motorcycle or in a tiny car like the Miata. Making a little noise can make somebody who didn't see you coming hear you coming and not pull out in front of you or run you over altogether. Okay, so generally aftermarket exhausts are made out of aluminized steel or stainless steel, both materials that last a very long time, which is why a lot of aftermarket exhausts will come with lifetime warranties like this one, because the materials are just good. Now, okay, let's talk about the cons. Some con side of thing. Let's talk about cons, baby. Con artists. They can be expensive. This, just for the Miata, was $600. That's not cheap. That's not nothing. Generally speaking, the exhaust price and just aftermarket parts in general are commensurate with the price of your platform. So on expensive cars, your exhaust is going to be a little bit more expensive. Other than that, there are some people out there that just don't want to make more noise. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what I'm talking about is drone. That's drone. Automotive manufacturers, OEMs, spend a lot of time and money and brain power making the stock parts, and the truth is the stock parts are usually really impressive in a lot of ways. They always tend to land pretty squarely at the crossroads of comfort, reliability, and power, which is a pretty impressive thing. Once you replace your exhaust, you move away from that crossroads of comfort and reliability, and you head down the road to power, which is a fun road, but it is definitely a lot more noisy. But how do you know if you need an exhaust? Honestly, it really depends on the platform, so you're gonna have to do some research. Some cars, like big old V8s or cars that have a really restrictive exhaust from the factory, can gain a lot of power from just an exhaust, where some cars won't gain much of anything. And then, what kind of exhaust do you need? A cat back, an axle back, a header back, a turbo back? Literally, all of those just mean that the exhaust starts at the end of that thing and goes all the rest of the way back to the end of the exhaust. And what you need depends on your goals. The more of the exhaust system you replace with freer flowing parts, the more power you can potentially make. So what size exhaust do you need? Well, the answer is there's a lot of math to figure that out, but practically speaking, there are a lot of calculators and charts online that will help you determine what diameter pipe to use for a given horsepower level and engine displacement. So in that sense, it's pretty simple. Just look up exhaust diameter calculator and you'll find everything you need. Let's put this thing on. We're just gonna install this pipe first to the catalytic converter. I think I should be able to go in this way. And then we'll put the back half on since the MAGNAFLOW comes in 2 pieces. Now this brace on its way back up isn't lining up quite perfect, so just giving her the old persuasion. Sometimes working on cars sucks. Like right now. Before we finish installing this exhaust, let's take a minute to talk about one of the most enduring myths in all of automotive history: back pressure. The myth is that you need back pressure to make power, or more specifically, low-end torque. And back pressure is the resistance your exhaust fights on its way out of your exhaust pipes. Back pressure is actually counterproductive to making power. You don't want any restriction in your exhaust. Think about a top fuel dragster running open headers. There's no back pressure there. Okay, but then why do people actually lose some of that precious low-end torque by increasing their exhaust diameter? Well, first we have to understand that the exhaust flowing through your pipes isn't a steady flow of exhaust. It's pulsed. Every time a cylinder completes an exhaust stroke, a pulse. A pulse, a pulse, 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 pulse. And each time one of those little baby pulses shoots down your exhaust, it creates a little pocket of vacuum behind it. And just like drafting in NASCAR, if you can get up on the guy in front of you's bumper, you can take advantage of his little vacuum pocket. Now, we want lots of vacuum behind each of our exhaust pulses so that the vacuum created can help pull the next exhaust pulse out of the combustion chamber. So this little vacuum pocket NASCAR drafting stuff, it's called scavenging, and it's most effective at low RPMs because once you get into higher RPMs, your exhaust does start to flow more like a constant flow rather than the pulse. Okay, so how do we increase the exhaust pulse velocity? Well, think of your exhaust like a garden hose. All right, so increasing the speed of your exhaust gases flow, dang,
You gotta reflow, man.
Yeah, I know. Well, I have, oh God. Now, when the hose is wide open and we're using all the diameter of that hose, we've got really good flow. There's very little back pressure and this thing's cruising right out. We got a lot of flow here. But what we don't have is very much speed. This is coming out pretty slowly. Now, when you decrease the diameter of the hose without changing anything else, you pretty clearly change the speed that the fluid is traveling in there. Same thing with your exhaust. Decrease the diameter and the exhaust gases are forced to travel faster than when the exhaust pipe is wide open. Great flow, terrible speed. All right, so wait a minute. We want a small diameter exhaust to increase the velocity, to increase the vacuum behind each pulse so we get the scavenging effect, but we want a big diameter so we can have no back pressure? Exactly. And the problem is that obviously you can't really have both, so you gotta strike a compromise like so many things in the car world. So this has been a really long way to say that you don't want back pressure, but you do want velocity in order to get some scavenging effects. And you happen to get each of those things in opposite ways, okay? The end. Let's put this on. Before we install this, we're gonna make sure that it's really clean because if we have any big old handprints or smudges on here and then we get it hot for the first time, that stuff will burn in to the finish. So like if I put a thumbprint there and we went and drove for the first time, that thumbprint would be there pretty much forever. So you don't want that. Just give it a quick wipe down before you get it hot. So we'll put a little lube in our hangers. Always helps. So anytime you're doing an exhaust install or something where there's multiple pieces, you should kind of leave all the hardware that you're working with not completely tight so that you can get a little bit of adjustment. So now we've got all the parts in place and now all we got to do is tighten up our exhaust fittings. So this hardware and that hardware up there. And then it's just time to make some noise. Okay, so let's take a listen and see if this has all been worth it. Ooh, that sounds pretty good. Not too bad. It's not obnoxious. It's not super loud. It complements the intake sound. I can still hear the intake. That sounds pretty good. Let's take it for a drive. You know what? That's exactly what I wanted out of an exhaust. It's understated. It's not god-awful loud. Ooh, it's got a nice bass tone to it. Makes this thing sound good. Now, I don't feel any power difference, I'll tell you that, but I didn't expect to. The point of this exhaust, in our case, isn't to give us more power now, it's to allow us to make more power later when we add a turbo and whatever the hell else we do to this thing. Well, sweet. And on that note, guys, I want to say thank you so much for watching the show. I hope you're learning. We're learning a lot making it. Make sure you subscribe to Donut and you have the notification bell rung so you know what's coming. We're releasing stuff every single day. And I appreciate you guys being so involved in the comments and talking about what's going on and telling me what you guys are working on. Keep it up. Let me know what you're doing, how you're passing your time in the quarantine. Throw it in the comments. I'll be in there commenting. I'm always in there. And if you guys happen to like this super sick totally awesome shirt. You can buy it at shop.donut.com. Join our gang. We're the Booze Creeps. You can be one of us. Follow me on Instagram at ZachJob. Follow Donut at Donut Media, and I'll see you in the comments. Goodbye.